This is P1 listener James Elliott, and you're watching the X Factor podcast. Brought to you by Bottom Gun Coffee. Now be different or be invisible.
Welcome, everybody, to the X Factor podcast, episode number... I don't know, creeping up on episode 50 for sure, though, which I can't wait to do that one with the P1s, JR. How about you?
That's going to be exciting. I've never done a live show before. I've been doing podcasting for a couple of years, and I've never done anything live, so this will be fun. I'm excited about it. More information.
Operating without a net, so to speak. That's
yes,
what that will
operating
be.
without a net, absolutely. And well, I mean, pretty much we don't have a net anyway.
No.
As a matter of fact, there's actually a square missing tonight.
Yeah, and when you say square, you mean you're referring to the human that was missing.
The human
not
square.
Square on the screen, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he is the ultimate square peg in this podcast, which is essentially a round hole, yes. I would say. And do you know the reason he's missing? I know the reason he's missing. Would you care to guess? Would you care to guess the reason? He is not at another Flo Rida concert.
Well, that's good.
And sadly, much to the chagrin and disappointment of Sarah Swenson, P1 listener shout out, he's also not fired. That's not my decision. That's up to JR. That's his.
Right.
Parker's his baby. It's his boy. So do you have any idea why he's not here, John?
I don't. I was traveling today, and I just found out that he's not going to be here. So
Did you just return from a Flo Rida concert?
No. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went over the border to South Carolina to look for bourbon, but and I had some success. So
really,
yeah. I mean, I didn't get any really high-end bourbons, but I did get some of my favorites. Which
you didn't get any Pappy Van Winkle, did you?
No
free shout-outs. Pappy.
Yeah, no free shout-outs.
Price gougers.
Yeah, no Pappies, no Blantons, no Wellers, but I did find some other good stuff. So
yeah, that's good.
So anyways, why is Parker the DFE, the leader of freaking everything, not here today? Again,
I'll read you his text.
Okay.
Hang on. I apologize, but I don't think I'll be able to podcast tonight. I responded with, "Are you at another Flo Rida concert?" No, ha ha ha. But if I ever go again, I'll bring you back some boots with the fur.
Nice.
Which I think was his attempt at humor.
I think so.
I don't know. Not that he's ever brought me anything other than disappointment, pain, agony, frustration. He is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just said, what is your lame-ass, nonsensical excuse? Go ahead. He said, it's the last day of free spray tan week at Suntan City. It's the last day of free spray tan week at Suntan City. I need to get darker before 10:23. What is 10:23? That is the question. Meaning 10:23, meaning October 23rd.
Right.
Which I'll have you know is a. He didn't want me to say anything, so I almost feel bad saying this and sharing his secret. But it's
why would the guy be getting tanned for the winter? This doesn't make
any
sense.
Yeah, if you're a dude going tanning,
Right. There's something wrong.
Sorry, a male. He's a male tanning. Is because he is entering the national qualifier for the Mid-Atlantic region. The Mid-Atlantic Classic is on 10/23 in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. What is that? Is that
It is at Booth Playhouse, if anyone would like to crash his party. And the host hotel is the Holiday Inn Charlotte City Center. No free shout outs, Holiday Inn. You're welcome.
What is the Mid-Atlantic Classic? Is it what is it?
It is a bodybuilding competition, John.
Wait. Our Parker
You heard that correctly.
wait, he entered a bodybuilding contest and so he's getting jacked.
Yep, the Carolina NBC Mid-Atlantic National Qualifier. I have it right here. He sent me the link.
Okay, well, isn't that don't the bodybuilders have to wear like a little mankini for that? Oh, it's not a mankini, it's more of a
Like a Speedo.
Speedo. Yeah, Speedo. All right. So but wait, it's a spray tan, not an actual tan.
He's getting a base layer of tan, and then they're going to spray over it, I'm sure. Like on the day of the event.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, hopefully they don't put a lot of orange on him like our last president. So
or diapers on him like our current one. This episode of the X Factor podcast is brought to you by our friends at Bottom Gun Coffee. They make the best coffee in the world. You should go there and buy some now. Tell them Coach Brew sent you. It's bottomguncoffee.com. You know the thing.
oh wow. Yeah, no.
Yep.
The thing, it's good. Bottom Gun Coffee is great. I've been drinking it every morning, and I'll tell you what, it's so much better than supermarket coffee. So go visit bottomguncoffee.com. Go visit our sponsor, and if you support them, they support us, and life is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that we get a kickback or anything.
Oh, we get coffee.
Yeah. So this episode, I forget the number, as I always do.
Yes.
But is X Factor accidents. And JR, I am so torn.
Yes.
On I was so torn on what to choose. I was thinking of number one, the Biden presidency, or perhaps number two, the microwave oven. That was more of an orchestrated accident. Number one.
Yes.
Number three, the Post-it note.
Oh, right.
My rank order. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great story.
Saccharin, the artificial sweetener.
Okay.
Penicillin.
All right.
Which is one word. It's not slang. Chocolate chip cookies. Which I had no idea that the owner of the Toll House Inn invented Nestle Toll House cookies, which are now like a global thing. The X-ray machine. Super glue. The super glue is actually my runner-up.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share a little preview, just so people aren't left in the dark. Back in 1942, Harry Coover was looking for materials he could use to build plastic gun sights for the war. But what he discovered instead was a chemical formulation that stuck to everything it touched.
Including my fingers.
Yup. However, his discovery was rejected because they didn't think anyone would ever need a formula that sticky. It wasn't until 9 years later in 1951 that he and his fellow Eastman Kodak researcher Fred Joyner decided to patent superglue. And its official name before being shortened to superglue was alcohol catalyzed cyanoacrylate adhesive compositions. I don't know why they didn't just go with that instead of superglue. I mean, that just rolls off the tongue much better than superglue. But yeah, it really kind of changed a lot of things. The pacemaker was another one. Potato chips were an accidental invention. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. I've heard that. Yes.
Right. How about this? There's a guy working at a laboratory researching refrigerants. In what year, John? It doesn't say the year. 1938. Here we go.
I was going to say 20s, 30s. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you notice that some of his gas turned into white powder.
I have that problem sometimes too.
Wow. It was heat resistant with low surface friction. And you know what it became?
I don't know.
Crack cocaine. No, just kidding. It became Teflon. Teflon was an accidental invention.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
Yeah. Low friction was your hint, folks.
Yep.
So yeah, I had all these different possibilities, and then I decided, stay in your lane, Brew. What do folks? What do JR and I like? Damn near as much as we like coffee.
Yes.
Our own books.
We do. Yes.
Our affinity for one another.
Yes.
Hashtag bromance.
Bromance.
Bromance. Mankinis.
Right.
What do we like almost as much as those things?
Parker?
I said we, not you. It's one of your 4 food groups.
It would have to be bourbon. It would have to be the quest I was on today. This today was bourbon, or yesterday. Yeah.
You didn't get any Pappy Van Winkle?
No Pappy. No Pappy.
Remember I asked you that already, John?
Yeah, you did.
At the very beginning of the pod?
Yes.
That's what we call foreshadowing. That's what we call foreshadowing.
Wow.
Because that is my X Factor accident.
Wait, how is Pappy Van Winkle one of the greatest bourbons or one of the rarest bourbons right now? How is that an accident?
Yeah, the most expensive bourbon.
Most expensive. Oh yeah. It's not available. It is an
accident in that, well, first of all, it's a 4th generation company right now. It is an accident in that Generation 3, Julian Van Winkle, he inherited a sort of a dying brand. The distillery closed. It was like Pappy Van Winkle was doing well, once they came out of Prohibition and people were drinking again. Whiskey, and bourbon wasn't what it is today. They were doing okay.
Yeah.
And then people started enjoying like more neutral spirits, I guess you could say, like gin and vodka, and like making mixed drinks and cocktails and things like
the clear drinks. And
they became additives as opposed to a standalone beverage, and whiskey was kind of on the decline. So he had to sell the distillery, and this is the Stitzel Weller Distillery, which is the name, kind of the 2 umbrella companies. Stitzel was the distillery, and Stitzel was wholesaling, and Weller was the distillery. And they consolidated after Prohibition because obviously there was no point in, you couldn't wholesale anything during Prohibition,
Right.
So, and just fell on hard times, and he had to sell. This is a company called Diageo, which is like a conglomerate. So they sold to Diageo, the Stitzel Weller Distillery in Shively, Kentucky, which is outside of Louisville. I didn't pronounce it right. I think if you're from that area, you'd pronounce it Louisville. I don't know. It's kind of like when you live in North Carolina, it's Fayetteville. Like Vuhl, I think, if you're spelling it phonetically, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they sold to Diageo, and they decided that they were just going to shut down this distillery. It was a perfectly good distillery, And for whatever reason, they just left all these barrels that were in storage. They just left them there. They kind of, I guess, decided they wanted to go their own direction with things. And Julian was having to kind of like private label, having someone else use his recipe, his mash bill, as they would call it, I believe is the term,
Yep.
and produce and then bottle his brand, Pappy Van Winkle. And as you can imagine, that cuts into your margins. Yeah, you have less startup costs, but it cuts into your margins and is not quite the same when you can have the same exact recipe, but when it's made elsewhere, stored elsewhere, it's not as consistent or the same flavor. It's kind of like if you were baking something in somebody else's oven, even if you use the same recipe, you know, there are other variables.
Yeah, there's differences. Absolutely.
Yeah. So at some point, after they kind of shuttered the operation, Diageo, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I guess they're getting ready to sell the property or something, but they found all these barrels, and like
Wow.
they were kind of worthless to them. Like, who can we unload these on? Well, let's call Julian because the bourbon community is a small community, and let's just see if he wants them back. And they called him up, and he's like, "You had what all these years?" They're like, "Oh, we have like," and I couldn't even begin to tell you how many barrels there were. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to speculate. But so he's like trying to play it cool because this was like his best stuff. That was like the family's recipes, best stuff that they had to sell and was just sitting in storage, aging gracefully too, I might add. So he tried to play it cool. He's like, "Do me a favor, give me right of first refusal on this. As you know, I've been using this third party, and I'd love to just be able to, you know, have the goods and just find someone to bottle it." So they said, okay. And he had to go to a couple of different banks to get a loan. I think he took, second mortgage out on his house and had to get a couple investors together to get this stuff. But this was like the quote, really, really good juice. So this, I think, is you can call it X Factor luck, an X Factor mistake. Call it whatever you want. I call it an X Factor accident. They accidentally did not realize what they had on their hands, and it became very good fortune for the Van Winkles because they got all that money together, bought up every last barrel, got a storage facility, got it bottled, and had over the years slowly released it at a premium price. And it's kind of funny. He took the worst of the batch and he entered it in like some international bourbon contest.
Yeah.
And it got rated a 99 out of 100, which is the highest score. I think nothing ever gets 100. It's kind of like Dave Portnoy's Barstool pizza scores. Nothing's a 10. You'll never get a 10. Well, nothing ever gets 100.
Yeah.
Julian's worst batch of whiskey got a 99.
Yeah. And
for those who deliberately entered the worst of it just to see how it would compete against everything else. And before things went viral on the internet, that information, that rating went viral. Everybody wanted it. Supply and demand kicked in, and there were these secondary markets on eBay and Craigslist, people selling bottles for thousands of dollars. I mean, if you're Diageo, the Diageo Corporation, aren't you just kicking yourself over that?
You were on a gold mine. You were sitting on a gold mine. You didn't know it. And for those of people that don't know, the longer that bourbon sits in these charred oak barrels, right, the more smooth they get, the more flavor comes out of the oak, the sugars and all that come into the bourbon, and so you get a smoother bourbon, a better tasting bourbon. So this these lost barrels, or these misplaced barrels, if you will, were simply was a gold mine. And of course, back then they didn't know that the bourbon craze would hit like it did. So some of it's timing, right? But also, if you're sitting on something that could be a gold mine, be careful not to go for the short-term win and sell it off to try to get a little bit of cash. I've seen too many companies do that, where they've got something really special, but they need cash, so they'll just spin it off, or they'll close it down, or they'll do something stupid just so they can do the short-term, grab the cash and run, and then they miss out on the big numbers that come from just taking a risk on something that has the potential to be amazing. So yeah, I mean, Pappy is you can't find it. I mean, I've seen bottles on the shelf, but of a high-end restaurants and things like that. But I've never had it, never tried it, and I've been drinking bourbon for a while. I've never had Pappy.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, what I think is funny is you go on the Stitzel-Weller website, which is owned by Diageo, and the bourbons that they do have, I haven't heard of half of them.
Yeah,
like Blade and Bow. I've heard of Blade and Bow.
Blade and Bow is good. Blade and Bow, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
I haven't heard of I.W. Harper. I haven't heard of the Gifted Horse. The
I.W.
Lost
Harper,
Prophet. They're just,
but they're not Pappy, right? I
no.
mean, Blade and Bow's got
That's
a great
the gold
story.
standard. Pappy's the gold
exactly.
standard.
Yeah, no, but Blade and Bow is a good product. It's got a good interesting history in and of itself, but it's no Pappy, right? I just bought some Blade and Bow, by the way. So no shout outs, but I do like it. It's one of my favorites.
This is your purchase when you went south of the border down to South Carolina.
Yes, yeah.
You bought several pew-pews. Some ammo that might go with pew-pews, and some whiskey. And I would bet you even might have been searching for cigars, knowing you.
Yes, we were. Yeah, my
son. Did the ATF follow you home?
That's what we were thinking.
You see an unmarked car chasing you.
We were looking for alcohol, cigars, and ammo and guns. So yeah, we were having fun. But
we don't allowed to say guns anymore in this country.
Use pew pew. We can call it pew pew. That'll work. But I went to a place, no free shout outs, to a place called Frugal McDougal's, this giant alcoholic warehouse. Frugal McDougal's. And it's right on the border of North Carolina. So it's getting all the people to come over the border to get the lower taxes and the and private, we have ABC stores in North Carolina. These are private down in South Carolina. So you get better prices, more selection, and they're right on the border. So it's for all guys like me, North Carolinians, looking for some deals. We hop over the border and find.
So you're like near Rock Hill?
Not quite that far in, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not quite that far in. Yeah. Yeah.
What borders North Carolina in the Charlotte area there? What part of South Carolina?
I don't even know what town we were in. But you just pop, Carowinds is right there. That big theme park is right there. And then I don't know the name of the town, so couldn't tell you. But I just know the roads go from nice and smooth to real bumpy. Everything kind of gets a little seedy, and there's fireworks stores, there's fruit stands, and it just gets a little wild. And there's Frugal McDougal, man, right there. It's like the holy grail of bourbon stores. So anyways, it was good.
You saw a lot of fruits standing outside of Frugal McDougal's. I gotcha.
Which we sure did. I saw somebody buy bourbon with rolls of quarters, and I'm not kidding. So,
hey, no shame in my game. If I needed a bottle of bourbon and all I had were rolls of quarters, I'm rolling them up and passing them to the cashier.
And it was not Pappy, because you need a lot of quarters. You need a truckload of quarters.
Truck. Yeah. So, JR.
Yes, sir.
You like my shirt?
I was going to mention the shirt. I love it. It's a chin up, chest out. For those who aren't looking on YouTube, and you should watch on YouTube, it is a flannel. It is a black and red flannel, chin up, chest out shirt. It looks amazing. And if I understand correctly, that's from the fall collection. Is that
It
right?
is from the fall collection. Yes, you can go to chinupchestout.store/fall and get you some. This
And
is
is
our
this
number one bestseller. We
nice?
also have a gray, black, and white flannel. These are I'm obviously wearing the Manly Man version. There is a ladies cut flannel, which I believe the nickname for it is Flanell number 5. I didn't make it
No,
up. Yeah, I
right.
just,
No, I
yeah.
doubt you did. Yes.
Yep. And yeah, we got some good stuff over there. Camo hoodies, camo hat, seasonal things. So if you are listening to this, head on over there. And if you are a new customer, you can use the pop up that comes up. Sign up for our email list. You'll automatically get a discount code for 10% off.
That's great. That's exciting. I looked over the fall collection the other day. A lot of good stuff in there.
You were
So
disappointed there were no bikini briefs. Isn't that what you texted me?
yeah, exactly what I said. Yeah, if there were, we could get him for Parker for his weightlifting debut, or sorry,
Bodybuilding, very different than
bodybuilding debut.
weightlifting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's exciting. Fall collection is out, so check that out. Yeah. So Pappy's a great story. Have you read the book? What's the name of the book?
Happy Land. Yep.
Happy Land. Yeah, I've got it
Yeah.
on the
I don't
shelf.
I, I don't like giving free shout outs to other authors not named John.
Yeah.
But it was a good book, great story about hardship, entrepreneurship, sacrifice, mending fences in a family business. Some of the, as you can imagine, some of the dysfunction and turmoil that happens in family businesses.
Yep.
No family is immune to that. It was a really interesting story, and then the author shares sort of his family life as the book is unfolding, and he and his wife are having their first kid, and him interviewing the Van Winkles. It all just really changed his perspective on being an adult and becoming a father and being a family man, priorities and things. I thought it was great. But I had. So for those of you who don't know, John and I text each other interesting articles and interesting things,
Yes.
and not just funny stuff, but like
Yeah.
intellectual pursuits as well. And I sent him an article about how Pappy Van Winkle, sort of the evolution of it. And his immediate response was, look at that. Even Pappy struggled.
Yeah.
I think that's the coolest takeaway from all of this. Never mind the book, Pappy Land, our conversation, this podcast, the X Factor accident that is Pappy Van Winkle. But there were 15, 20 years of struggle before it became just this, before it really blew up into this very, it's like a force of nature at this point, this very unexpected, pleasant surprise they've had. And so, yeah, if you're going through struggle, it's normal.
It is normal. Yeah, it is normal. In fact, success is the one thing that, is the people that, the home runs like a Pappy are rare,
Yep.
but it comes, but even those home runs are decades of base hits, before they're able to win games. So I think if you're going through some tough times, you've gone through struggle, you're in good company. There's a lot of people doing it right now, trying to figure out how to get a business going, how to launch a business, how to sustain a business, how to run a business when market conditions change, when there's global supply chain crisis, when there's a COVID outbreak, when there's a change in political climate. All these things affect what we're trying to do in our business, and it takes hard work.
Socialism.
Yeah, exactly. But it takes hard work and perseverance, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you're
So,
feeling shipwrecked, or like things have run aground, so to speak, for you, keep the faith.
yeah, keep the faith, keep plugging along, keep on swimming, as Dory would say. So yeah,
Was that foreshadowing that I used?
a little
Just a
bit. Yeah, a little bit. I
little
think
bit.
you mentioned shipwreck, and so that kind of rolls into my X Factor accident. That it's kind of a little bit of a different story. Yours was sort of an accidental, or I don't know, accidentally finding something of rare value that ended up launching a brand into something beyond what it ever was before, right? My story is one of of a true accident where people died, but it launched a program which saved countless lives afterwards. So the beginning of the story is a bit tragic, but if you realize the impact that that tragedy had on at least my life, I think the story is pretty powerful. So so for me, and when you mentioned shipwreck, so I want to talk about the loss of the USS Thresher, and that was a nuclear submarine that was lost on April 10th, 1963. It was the first nuclear submarine that the United States ever lost due to due to its sinking at sea. And what was hard about this as a country is that we had never lost a nuclear submarine before, and this was the lead boat of an advanced new class of submarines that was just coming out. So, I mean, you probably can imagine
Can,
this submarine.
can I ask a question before we go any
Yeah,
further,
yeah,
John?
yeah.
So for people who are not experienced naval seamen,
Yes.
uh, explain. So you said like a submarine sinking.
Yeah.
They don't they just aren't they supposed to sink?
They are
Or
supposed to
do
sink,
they
but
float? Like, here's what I'm wondering. Like, when they're at the surface, and forgive my ignorance, but I bet a lot of people
yeah.
are wondering this. At least the tens of listeners that we have are wondering this. Like, does a submarine naturally float at the surface, and you have to like do some sort of like propulsion or whatever to get it to go underwater and stay down there,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
does it
yeah.
naturally sink, and you have to do something to get it to float and come up to the surface?
Yeah, so it's we have these things called submarine has ballast tanks, and you force high pressure air into the ballast tanks, and that causes the submarine to float, if you will. And then we let air out of the ballast tanks to be able to sink the boat. And we do generally try to keep it neutrally buoyant, which means that if we have no propulsion, it would just stay at the depth that you're at. So we always try for neutral buoyancy. So we bring air into the ballast tanks to rise, and we let it out to sink. So
So
yeah,
it
so
wasn't such a dumb question.
no, not at all, not at all. And so yeah, submarines are designed to sink, but only to a certain depth, right? Beyond that, they call it test depth, and beyond test depth is where then the pressures get so great that they'll crush the hull of a submarine and
Gotcha.
cause everyone to perish. So
And how deep is that?
it's classified, but in excess of 800 feet is what the non-classified version says. So in this case, it was.
So I don't have security clearance for you to share that with me privately.
No, nor do I either. I mean, I
Ooh.
know this data, but I don't have the clearance for it, which is weird. But anyways, I'm out of the military now, so I don't have any. But the Thresher was, from 1915 to 1963, we lost 60 submarines due to non-combat related losses. So these are just submarines that had some sort of equipment failures, some sort of operational failure, and they failed to reach the surface. And for years and years and years, the Navy was focusing on ways to rescue submarines.
How many sailors was that?
Oh, I mean, hundreds. Yeah, hundreds. But for years, we were always trying to figure out ways to rescue submariners. Well, the Thresher was a great. When that happened, it happened in a depth, and we lost the thresher. It was at 8,400 feet where they found it on the bottom of the ocean. And at those depths, there's really no way to rescue submariners. And it really changed the mindset into the Navy, because we lost this a very advanced submarine. They did a deep dive into. Sorry, that was crazy. They studied it very in depth to be able to find out exactly why this failed, right? This submarine failed to reach the surface. And what they learned was that there were some certain things that multiple failures in systems that if corrected, we could design and operate and maintain a boat that can always reach the surface. So we don't have to rescue them anymore. So this was a big, major step forward. So that was the big thing that happened. So the Thresher was lost, like I said, in 1963, April 10th, in 8,400 feet of water, and all 129 submariners, and there were shipyard people on board as well, all perished in that accident. But when they went through and studied it, they found that there was flooding in the engine room, and the flooding scrammed the reactor. So you had incoming water, then your propulsion system was down, and then they went to do what's called an emergency blow, which is to force air into those ballast tanks where you bob up to the surface really fast. That's your emergency plan. The piping was frozen, and so the air couldn't get the ballast tanks. So they had no way to get to the surface, and that's why they perished.
Would that just destroy your eardrums?
Yeah.
Go to the surface that fast, like collectively?
No, because you're forcing the air into the ballast tanks, which are outside the pressure hull.
Okay.
So you keep the pressure inside the submarine at atmospheric pressure, so your pressure doesn't change during that. Yeah, it's a good question though. But so what they decided to do is they built a plan called SubSafe, and SubSafe was a program that was it said that anything that touches seawater in a submarine had to go through this rigorous QA system. And so all of the materials, all the processes, all of the people, including shipyard personnel and Navy personnel that operated on these systems, had to be qualified. They had to be SubSafe qualified. All the materials had to be SubSafe qualified. All the people had to. And in any system that had interaction with seawater on a submarine had to go through a rigorous SubSafe qualification process. So there was a very complicated system that was put in place, but it was all about safety. It was always that you had to reach the surface. There was no basically there was no room for failure. You're not going to be able to rescue a submariner. You have to get it to the surface. So SubSafe became the program inside the Navy to protect sailors. So that SubSafe program was put in place, like I said, right after we lost the Thresher. And since then, not a single submarine that wasn't SubSafe certified was lost. So we did lose the Scorpion in 1968, and that was due to, we still don't know how we lost the Scorpion, but they think it was a Soviet interaction that went wrong. But
I thought subs were named after presidents.
No, they well, in World War II they were named after fish. So yeah, but they're fish, they're states, they're cities, they're presidents, it's kind of a mixed bag right now. So yeah, but those of us who've studied old timey submarining, we like fish. We want our submarines named after fish, but that's a whole nother story. But since we lost
like the SS Minnow.
That would be great. Absolutely. But since then, there's been 200 nuclear submarines in the U.S., and they've steamed millions of hours underneath the surface for 50 years without a loss of a single submarine. So while the loss of the Thresher was, tragic, 129 people perished. What I really appreciate about that story is that the Navy took it seriously and found a way to make sure that never happened again, right? And so the SubSafe program was an answer to that. And the SubSafe program is what I operated in when I was in the Navy. And I was trained in SubSafe. All of my procedures were focused on SubSafe. And I know that because of the Thresher, I was kept safe during my 5 years on the USS Tennessee because of those men that perished in that accident. So what's interesting, and this is kind of cool, in 2019, in September of 2019, they actually built a memorial for the USS Thresher crew in the Arlington National Cemetery. And this is what's interesting. It says, in honor of the 129 men lost aboard the USS Thresher, SSN 593, and their subsafe legacy. They actually mentioned subsafe.
Oh, wow.
In the memorial. So I guess why to me this is an X factor accident, because it was a tragedy. It was terrible loss of life, but I'm so glad that the Navy took it seriously.
Yeah.
They did some serious investigation, and they put together a program, SubSafe, that's actually used by NASA as well to keep astronauts safe. It is put in place to keep sailors safe. And so the point of that is that some lessons are learned with blood, right? Sometimes people die, but those are the ones we can never forget. And that's really important. And, as we're seeing some of the bad news coming out of Afghanistan with us pulling out and making all these mistakes and losing 13 of service members, I am just hoping that we still have that level of rigor left in the military that's going to say that should never happen again. What did we do wrong and how do we fix it?
What did we do wrong? Oh, we only left $80 billion worth of equipment over there too.
My hope is that we will learn these lessons. We will study it, that there's somebody with a good heart left in the military that's going to study this and try to understand what we did wrong and how do we fix it going forward. That's my hope. I don't see any indication of it, but
no. But what I'm impressed by with the Thresher situation is, if you're going to go through such a catastrophic event, you ought to. And I think as a leader, you have a responsibility to learn from it and make sure that something like that is preventable and not repeatable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think,
and to commit the resources.
That's it. That's
to
it.
make sure.
It's one thing to say, well, we'll never let this happen again, and just put a lot of words to it. The Navy put a lot of action behind it, a lot of systems in place. So it was a mindset. First of all, we said, we're not going to rescue submarines. Submarines must always reach the surface no matter what. That was a mindset shift, right? And then the second thing was, we're going to put the training, the processes, the procedures in place to make sure that we always reach the surface. So it was a mindset shift, and then they backed it up with training, systems development, material design. So they backed it up. So that's why I consider this an X factor accident, because we took it seriously and we fixed something that was
some good came out of it.
Really good came out of it. So I mean, as a submariner, you're very vulnerable, and you might think, wow, it's a nuclear submarine. No, you're surrounded by seawater. You're operating in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. In my case, you're hundreds of feet beneath the surface and operating alone. Anything goes wrong, you're dead, and all your shipmates are dead. There's no coming out of this, right? So having that type of rigor is, help me to sleep at night, right? Knowing that the systems were there and in place, and we could get to the surface, even if we had flooding, even if we had a fire, even if we had some other tragic event. So anyways, Thresher is my story of an X factor accident. Maybe it's not as hopeful as others, but I think it tells a story of when bad things happen, use that and learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And sometimes it takes a major effort. So,
JR, I'm sure there are some other examples that I just can't think of, but the one corporate example, corporate leadership in the United States that I can think of that kind of parallels that would be, back in the 80s with Johnson & Johnson, the Tylenol scare.
Oh yeah, great one.
Where, was it Chicago that there's some cyanide that got put in some Tylenol?
Yep.
Not due to anyone at Johnson & Johnson or who manufactured the Tylenol, but someone tampered with some and then restocked the shelf, in whatever pharmacy or store. And they decided, number one, we didn't do it, but it's our accountability. So we're going to remove all of the Tylenol from every shelf in every store in America until we get all this sorted out. And what came of that, tragically, several people, I believe, died from ingesting
Yes.
cyanide. But what came from that was Johnson Johnson actually invented um,
Yep.
child-proof lids
Yep.
and the safety seal that not only goes on the inside of the bottle, but that plastic seal, like it's like a
Yep.
double safety seal. There's one on the inside, that foil that goes on the inside of the lid, and then another one that goes over the cover. So you know it's tamper-proof, or it hasn't been tampered with. And that maybe never would have happened if it weren't for that. That was born of tragedy.
Yes, it was.
But
And I would
notice
say
that
this.
hasn't happened again. And they changed the way
Yep.
every single one of their competitors
Yeah.
packaged their medication from that day forward.
Yeah. And I would say this, that's a great story about a company, a corporation taking responsibility. Even though it, as it turned out, it wasn't anything that was wrong with their manufacturing process or their distribution. It happened by somebody physically trying to hurt people by tampering with their product. But a lot of things came out of it to the good. But here's and let me tell you, when that happened, the trust to Johnson and Johnson and Tylenol, especially, everybody trusted Tylenol more because they took responsibility and took all that product off the shelf, costing them, I don't know how many millions, but a lot,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Hundreds, I'm sure.
But they took responsibility. And that's when you take responsibility as a leader, as a corporation, you build trust. And that's really important. And I've been just writing about this recently. It bothers me when we have leaders that don't take responsibility, when they find a scapegoat and throw them under the bus. That is not taking responsibility. And I see it countless times, it seems like, in politics these days. But recently, in the last 30 days, we've had a lot of situations where people haven't taken responsibility, and I see a timeout sign. So,
John, you've been writing about this recently?
I have, yes, I
If
have.
someone would be interested in reading what you wrote, how would they subscribe
Oh,
to
it's super
receive
easy.
these nuggets of wisdom?
Yeah, it's super easy. It's jonsrennie.com, and at the bottom of the page you can sign up for the newsletter. Actually, there's a pop-up and you can sign up and you get on the weekly. I do a weekly email. Yeah, pop up, and you get on the weekly email. I also been adding more content on Substack lately. So I don't really know Substack real well, but anybody is on Substack. So I have jonsrennie.substack.com is
Oh, Coach
another
Randall
place.
must be on Substack then.
Who is?
You said everybody who's anybody is on Substack, so I just said Coach Randall must be on Substack, I guess.
I would assume he's on Substack somewhere. Yes. So what am I? I'm an old dog with a new trick. So I'm playing around with Substack and trying to figure it out. So, but
Cool.
yeah, no, that's been something it's been bothering me lately, seeing leaders not taking responsibility. And Tylenol is a great example. Johnson & Johnson, a great example of a company that took responsibility. And we need
And that reminds me of a new topic for a new episode.
I like it. What is it?
And we have to figure out how to phrase it. So if you're
Okay.
listening right now, perhaps you could help us drop a comment on how help me wordsmith this. But it'd be X Factor. Like, people or companies who lost their way, and I don't know how you spin that into an X Factor.
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you kind of probably already know where I'm going if I mention Tylenol and Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, mission drift, or I don't know if that's the right, or X factor. It's when we'll have to.
Yeah, I mean, it might even be like X Factor corruption or X
Yeah.
Factor deceit. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. I do. I think every now and then we ought to do a sort of nefarious, dark X Factor and expose some of the evils that we see that are a result of just abject leadership failures.
I'm on it. I see it all the time. It's when you have a lens of leadership, I just can't, every story seems to have a leadership element to it in my mind. And
Like if you have an employee who no-shows repeatedly and gives lame excuses, what do you do? Do you enable that behavior?
I don't even know.
Or is there a consequence?
I mean,
If you have an employee who deletes work and doesn't deliver things on time, what do you do? Do you train them better? Do you discipline them? Do you terminate them? Or do you just turn a blind eye? These are the questions that I often have when it comes to leadership. And sometimes, frankly, John, I'm not sure if we're all in the same boat, and I don't know who has the watch on this pod.
But you got to admit, for excuses, the boys got some good ones. What do we have? Fluoride, and now we have spray tans. So
bodybuilding contest
for a bodybuilding contest. So,
but did you see how I masterfully gave you shameless?
I did. I was going to say, look, we included all the book titles in there.
You worked very hard to weave these free shout outs, no free shout outs into things.
Yeah.
So, you got your Sasquatch flag, I see.
Yeah. I got the American flag. It's looking good. Actually, I've got the shirt on today. Sasquatch Flag Company. I don't know if you can see it. But
it says I bought a Sasquatch flag, and all they gave me was
a. But it's you see there's Sasquatch. You always say you don't see him. There he is, right there.
So. He's gotten older. He looks hunched over. His posture has deteriorated. Does he have osteoporosis?
It's from carving the stars in the flag. I think that's what.
Yeah, it takes a little precision. So, JR, what else is going on?
Well, not much. I know I am coming up to see you here soon. That's going to be news. We're going to have
X Factor surprise. It's going to be an
X Factor surprise, but just to give a little taste, we may be in the same studio here soon, so we'll have more information on that soon. And I'll have to wear plaid if I'm coming up your way.
Flannel number 5.
Flannel number 5, absolutely.
Yep. Now it's gonna be fun. JR's coming up here. We won't tell you when because you stalkers will come up here and try and find us. And
I listened to Tim Dillon on the way up, so he had a
stalker. Yeah, right. That was great.
It's hilarious. So no stalkers, please. We don't. That's funny.
So, but yeah, I'm planning out an itinerary. There's a bourbon bar that's one of the top 10. I think it's number 5 in the country.
Yes.
In Portland, Maine. We will be. They might charge us rent the amount of time we'll probably spend there that day. We'll be going there. I found the best lobster roll in the state of Maine. Hopefully that food truck will still be. It's a food truck, actually.
Okay.
It's supposedly the second best. The best is in Wiscasset at a place called Red's. But if you've ever eaten a lobster roll at Red's is like a tourist trap, and it kind of sucks. So we're gonna go to the place that legit has the best lobster roll, and it's a food truck.
Okay.
So we will do that if they're open. If they're not, we'll find somewhere else. We're going to get bourbons.
Yes.
There are no cigar bars here. We might have to frickin' drive to New Hampshire for that. But we're going to have a good old time. We're going to record a bunch of podcasts. We'll shoot some video.
Yep.
It's going to be, it's going to be a party.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. So that's coming up soon. So stay tuned to listen for that. And
now, are you going to?
Yeah.
What? Are you going to? I need to figure out where I'm picking you up. So you're going to travel from, I believe, the Outer Banks in your own private submarine. Will you be docking it at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Kittery, Maine, or somewhere in the Portland Harbor where all the cruise ships dock?
Oh, I had to probably go to Portland. To Portsmouth, and I got to go to Kittery Trading Post first, and then I'll come up your way.
All right.
No free shout outs, but I like that place.
Yep. Yeah. Hashtag guns and ammo.
Once again, there's a theme in my shopping.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah, that'll be fun. So you guys will all have that to look forward to. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's the best way to keep up with us. Go ahead and do that. If you don't own John's books, shame on you. Go buy them and subscribe to his Substack, his regular stack, and any other stacks that he has. And yeah, if you haven't been over to my website, you could do the same there.
Yep.
And if you are a P1 listener,
Yes.
we are going to be sending you an engraved invitation to join us on episode 50. If you're not a P1 listener, you'll have to sit on the sidelines and watch patiently and then think to yourself, I wish I would have become a P1 listener, reviewed, shared, commented frequently on the podcast, sent messages and voicemails, suggested I wish I would have done that, because now I have to wait till episode 100 to do this live podcast thing with them.
Yeah, there's going to be golden tickets given out, and if you haven't played the game, then you're not going to get the golden ticket. So, and it's not just one golden ticket either.
No,
we have a series of golden tickets for our P1 listeners.
Yeah, no glove, no love.
Yes,
I totally used that out of context, didn't I? I don't know. There's some sort of idiom similar to that.
I need a
you snooze, you lose.
Oh, snooze,
I never involved with sleeping with someone or something or somewhere. I was close. Snooze, you lose.
Seatbelt in my chair, on my chair, in my podcast studio, because sometimes we take sharp turns, and I almost fall out of my seat.
Yeah, we just took a hard right there.
That did it. Yes.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
This has been fun because Parker wasn't here, and I always enjoy podcasting with you.
I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow at work in the spray tan.
We fully expect pictures.
Yeah, I'll send a picture.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, very good.
This episode has been brought to you by our friends at Bottom Gun Coffee. It's the nectar of the gods.
Yes,
would be the best way I could describe it. You wouldn't know if you haven't gone there and ordered some. So go find out. You can thank us later. You're welcome.
Absolutely. Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
This is P1 listener Drew Hashimura, and you're listening to the X Factor podcast, where I come for great book recommendations.